So what you see before you is an example of the non-objective assignment that I've asked you to do in pastels. And you're going to do it by putting different spheres, cubes, and cylinders on your page overlapping, and then using different tones of color and some shading and blending technique, light and dark areas, produce an abstract piece. And nothing about it is supposed to look necessarily three-dimensional. You can have flat panes of color. Because this is abstraction, you can do it however you like to achieve the goal set out in this task. So I'm going to give you a quick blending technique with pastels to get you on your way, but start out with a pencil and do your sketch first. In this example, you can see that by flattening out different cubes and cylinders you draw, you can create an abstract piece. So we're going to do that with pastels. You're going to need a box of pastels that you can get at any dollar store. These are quite handy. They're called a blending tool. You can use them with pastels, different types of pencils, and they come in a package that looks like this. It's a blending stump that will help you. So what we're working on in this assignment is non-objective art, or another word of calling non-objective is abstraction. It's not necessarily based on anything. It's not based on an object. That's the word non-object in non-objective. Although you could create it by using cubes and cylinders, overlapping them, and flattening the planes of colors. So I'm going to show you in pencil how to go about drawing a cube. You start with a square. And I'm sure most of you have done this before, but it's good practice to review. Now when you add on to a cube to make it three-dimensional, use a parallel line. So if you choose your angle at this angle, carry that angle through by dragging the straight edge up the page with you. That will give you the exact same parallel line. And in fact, that line can get carried over to this side of the cube. This line and this line should be on the same parallel to this as well. And if you overshoot it, you can always erase a line away from your cube. And this parallel should be the same right here. So that's in essence a cube. They're based on parallel lines that you can achieve by keeping that angle and dragging it across your page. As for a cylinder, you can start it out similar to a cube in that you can create a box or a rectangle. I'm just going to darken this line so you can see it a little bit more. And this one I'm going to do light across both the top and the bottom. The real hint is to have the edges look the same top and bottom, so the angle isn't going to drastically move about that much on you, and it's never going to flatten. It's going to come out slowly but surely and then recede slowly but surely, so that the line is never flat the way a cube is flat, but it doesn't take on a full circle shape either. Then you're going to take your cylinder back. And the hint in doing it is take your pencil to the side so that you can build your line slowly and adjust it as you're going along. And if that doesn't look like the right angle, just change it a little bit. Until you get the angle that you're looking for. Now there's another way of doing it in that you could mathematically calculate it by taking that same cube and doing some invisible lines through your cube or your rectangle. And then calculating the center point, building out of the center point. You could do the same idea with a cylinder. Now when you get to doing a whole page, what we're looking to do is now you're going to add overlapping cubes and overlapping cylinders, or an overlapping cone shape if you want to get into the cone. The cone shape is just like it would seem, triangular on top. Sort of like that. And then I might have an curved bottom, just like that. So as I make more shapes on my page, what happens is I get overlapping spaces. So you're going to carry on the same way as that until your entire page is just filled with pencil marks. There's no need to erase those pencil marks. The pastels will go right over top of them. Now you can see here that the cylinder is left a curved line here and here, and that my rectangle created a straight line here. So that's one shape. And I'm going to just fill that in. The pastels are very, very, very much like a crayon that a child uses in that they're very easy to use. You don't have to think about it too hard. This shape carries on where I've taken an angular line through the cylinder. I'm going to stop, because in doing that I'm creating a non-objective surface. Now if I add white, I can give myself a tint on that green, or the same with the black, which will produce gray. And the other way of working over the area is to take your blending stem, and just like I was explaining, you can use these to blend in an area and push around the texture. So I'll take a nice bright red and give you a good example. I'm filling in this space over here. And taking my stump, and I'm going to push this pastel until it smears. It's similar to Conte in that sense, because you can have a very nice blended effect by working it. And it will take a little while to do, but it takes sort of the textural line down and it makes it softer. And that's what pastel is well known for. You can see a lot of pastel art by observing galleries and take an excursion somewhere and expose yourself to what's out there. So you're continuing around the page, filling in each overlapping shape as though it were not a three-dimensional shape, but a flat surface. You can create a muted palette like this, or a vibrant palette with a range of colors, such as I've used here. You can blend the colors into one another so that you have some light and darks and so I'd like you to observe now how there's a transition between where the pencil marks were and where the pastel is going. What I mean is, I'll show you with my blending stump here. The original cylinder was drawn this way. It was drawn three-dimensionally, but as the shapes overlap, and we treat each shape that overlaps as a flat pane of color, it flattens out the shape, takes away the object, and creates non-objective abstract art. And that's one way you can create abstract art. I've done a cool color scheme here with greens and blues. And over here I've used warm yellow, red, burnt sienna, and a peach. And you can do it however you see fit. The objective to the exercise, the purpose of the exercise, is to learn about how abstract art can be created and how, if you use different techniques, you can take three-dimensional. And if you treated this differently, you could actually turn it into something shadowy with some dimension to it. So anything in art is all about creativity and how you go about doing a piece. You'll find that pastels are really easy to play with, and you should be able to get a lot of enjoyment out of them. So as you can see, this cube is becoming more of a flat plane the more that I apply to it. Pastels come in a range of different colors, and you can actually get a lot more than this small box I have if you enjoy the medium. So there's an example of this cube that is now a flat pane of color, and it has now become an abstract piece. you can also take colors and overlap them. For example, there's the burnt sienna. When I apply a blue, that's what creates the shadowy areas if I intend to do that. If I want that effect, I can do the same over my orange, and it creates a different look again. And that's how you can play with your pastels. Then take your blending stump, blend them together, soften the line, smear the pigment around. That's how you work the page. So you're going to carry on until all of the white surface is covered, and that's when you can do a self-assessment and a peer assessment, and then post it for a critique.